Hello friends, myself Shriram Korde. In this video, we will cover a topic which is a very interesting topic, and that is about decision control instruction, or essentially we consider it as a decisions. Now, why typically you require such a facility? Now let's take the day-to-day example. When we talk about a day-to-day example, then we basically have the situations like if I get this much of marks or this much of percentage or this is my grades or these are the CGPAs, then I can get admission to such and such college. Similarly, it can be related to your relationship with your parents. Like if you get good marks, then probably parents will promise you some good mobile, or probably it can be some good chocolate, good quality chocolate, or things like that. So point I'm just trying to make it is like the way in which we do that in our day-to-day life. On the similar lines, when we start programming, then why don't we basically have that facility? And that's where the decision control comes into picture. Why? Because whatever the program up to now we have written, whatever so small programs that we wrote, essentially they work in a very sequential manner. However, I require a control, I require a facility so that I can control the flow of execution. So if I can control the flow of execution, then I am able to solve my day-to-day problems. The reason I am telling you all this is because when we learn a C programming language, or for that matter a programming language, then you require to handle the real life problems, and that's where you require a decision control ability. So having laid this background information, now we are ready to go and basically understand it more. So as part of decision control, the way in which it can be done in C language is like there is something called as if statement, and then coupled to if statement there is if else statement. So these are the two things, and then obviously to achieve that, or to achieve that particular control, we are going to rely on something which is called as conditional operators. Right now I am just putting it as a conditional operators, but essentially as we proceed forward we will speak more about it. So how do I basically write this particular if statement? So the way in which this if statement is written is like you have a if, then there is a pair of parentheses, and in the pair of parentheses you basically are going to write the condition. So how this executes? If this condition is true, so this condition is true. Now this is a very important point and I will speak more about it later. So if this condition is true, then what you do as part of this block of code, that means whatever the condition we are trying to check, that means, and in as part of that particular conditional check or that part of code, you basically are going to execute the code. So execute the code here, whatever the code you write as part of this if block. So you basically are going to execute the statement, or essentially it's a piece of code. That is what basically it means. Similarly, on the lines of else, so you can have if, then obviously there will be a condition. So here I am just putting for the time being the condition only, simple way. Obviously this condition has to be true. So you will have few lines of code, you can have here few lines of code, and then there will be else which matches to this particular if, and then you can have the piece of code here like that. Now typically when you have only one line of code, then you normally don't give a curly bracket. Otherwise you have the habit of giving a curly bracket because you would like to tell which is the piece of code that should typically get executed. So that's why typically we will use curly bracket to indicate the piece of code that should be part of that particular block. So let me just emphasize this point. So here if there is only one statement, then you don't require this curly bracket. Otherwise, in general way, if I want to put it, if this condition is true, so this is very important. So this statement still is the same thing. So this is that if this condition is true, then this block of code whatever it has been written, in this curly bracket will get execute if this condition is false. This is very important. So I'll just make it, so if this is false, that means if this condition is false, then whatever the piece of code or block of code that has been written into this curly bracket gets executed. Once again, I will emphasize, if you have only one statement, then you don't require a curly bracket. That's the important piece. But otherwise, you keep on giving curly brackets for only for one line, which is not required. So to achieve this condition, so how do I write that? So to achieve that, you basically will have conditional. That means you require to write a condition. So that means you now need to rely on something which is called as, for the time being, we will study what is called as relational operators. Relational operators. So relational operators are what? So we typically are used to it to a certain extent, but let me just put it. So x is equal to y. That means we are checking if x is equal to y. So here we will say x equal to y. Another can be x. Then obviously you will have x not of y. That means not equal to y. So x not equal to y. So obviously this is not equal. X not equal y. Then you can have x less than y. So this is less than, x less than y. Then you can have x less than equal to y. So this is the case where less than equal. So here you are taking care of the boundary condition. That means x obviously is less than y. That means, say if I get x is 2 and y is say 5, then 2 less than 5 is 2. But if x is 5 and say y is also 5, then in that particular condition x less than y is equal to will come into picture, and then that condition will become true. So that is what is very important. So this is a, it's like a boundary condition we are talking about. So x less than y and then x less than equal to y. Similarly, you will have x greater than y and then x say greater than equal to y. So greater than, this is like less than, so I'll just put it gt, and this is greater than equal to. So this is greater than equal to. So that's the way you typically will have relational operators. So using that, we typically will be doing coding. Then we will also understand logical operators, which will come little later. But right now we will concentrate on relational operators. So let's say that if I want to write a program, and let's say I want to take input from user, then I want to check whether the particular input which is given by user, whether it is below a particular number or not. So if that is going to be the simple problem that somebody gives us for us to understand if statement, then we can see it in working. So let me go to the Visual Studio Code, and in this Visual Studio Code I can basically create a file. So let me just go and create a file, and here we will try to see if statement. So let me just say that if statement working, and here I will just give the name of the file if statement, and I'll just put it one. Why? Because I want to create multiple files. I'll just make it if statement 1, if statement 2, something like this I can create. So let's say we will include the stdr.h, because we will require printf, and obviously we will require scanf. Now we want to demonstrate, or we want to see how typically if statement works. So we will have here int main, and then I can have, let's say, an int x. So x is a variable, and I can initialize x with 0 to start with, no issues. So I can initialize it with 0, and now I want to put a condition, and I want to check whether if x is, say if x is a marks given by student. So let me just, instead of putting x, I'll make the variable name as marks. So I can have, say, if marks of a student, if they are less than say 40, then I can have here printf, and I can simply say fail, and I can give \n so that it goes to the next line. That's it. And then what I can do is I can simply return 0. I don't want to do anything. So the another case can be like, if the marks are, let's say, greater than 40, then what happens? Then we have not considered that case. But right now we will simply understand this, and then we will modify this program to take care of that situation also. So let me just run this program, and let's see, and then obviously we have to take input from user. So for that we will have to write here printf, and we will have to say enter marks. And then needless to mention, we will have scanf, and in that we will do percentage %d and then ampersand of marks. So let's see it in action now. So let me just run this program. So you will see it is asking me enter marks. So I will enter marks, say 32. So it is going to say fail. That's the way it is going to work. Why? Because 32 entered is less than 40 marks. That is our cutoff. Let me just once again run this. I can simply say 45. Then what happens? There is no output. That means now I need to take care of the situation where how the things work when the marks is, say, above the cutoff. So that means now we need to tackle that situation also, and we will think about it in a bit of a time. That means we will think about it where we can write more programs or more problems. Okay. So we will write another problem, and here what we can do is simple word is I can simply put here else. Okay, and then I will simply say printf, and then I will say pass. That means you are pass. Okay, and I can just, that means you have cleared the exam. It's like you are success. So it's a success. Instead of pass, I can say you have a success. So let me just execute this code now. Now once again I have to enter, I will say 56. So it's going to say success. So that means now it is as simple as that. So what exactly has happened? So let's try to understand. So we got the marks which are input by user. Then marks less than 40, that particular test was checked. So here it was executed as failure. Okay, why? Because marks are not, when I entered 56, marks are not less than 40. That means this particular expression or this particular if statement was executed as false. So it entered into the else loop, or else segment of the if portion, and it printed success. So if I would have given here, say, let me just run here once again, and if I gave, say, 34, then what happens? It is going to print. That means instead of false, now this will be true. So this will get executed to true. So that means it is true. Yes, it is indeed less than 40. So this particular portion gets executed to true. So point I am just trying to make, whatever the condition or the essentially it's an expression. You are writing an expression. That means marks less than 40. So this expression, if it evaluates to true, then if portion gets executed. If this particular portion evaluates to false, then either if you wrote else, then obviously else will get executed, otherwise nothing will happen. So that means if, when you write if statement, if can exist independently, however else cannot exist independently. It goes in hand with if. You can't simply write else. It, if is a prerequisite or it is mandatory, then only else can be there, but else is not mandatory for if. That is a very important understanding. Now we can think of, say, some another simple program, where let me just write a simple program. Let me create a simple program. Say here I will say if statement, and I'll just put it as here 2. So I want to put another code here. So what I will do is I will simply copy this and I'll paste it. Okay, I don't want these things, and so I'll remove all this which I don't require in between. Okay, so I have a little bit I avoid typing. So now let us say that I want to compute the expenses that typically it occurs when you go to a DMart or a store like Walmart and things like that. So if there is, let's say, a discount on a quantity, if you purchase a quantity which is say beyond some limit, then there is a discount. Otherwise, there is no discount. So if that is the case, so we can simply write a code here. So let us say calculate say supermarket bill amount if you want to do this calculation. So what exactly you require is, so let's say there is a discount if you buy say a quantity of say biscuits or quantity of chocolates which is say less greater than say 5,000, then you will get a discount on the purchase of chocolates and things like that. Okay, so we can simply put a problem and we can solve that problem. So what we can say is that we can have an integer say quantity. So we will have here quantity of chocolates or say quant, then we will have say discount. So I'll put discount as 0. There is no discount initially, and then we will basically put the rate. So we can have rate of the chocolate we can have, and then obviously you are going to require a variable which is going to compute total expense or the total bill amount. Okay, so that's why we will have a variable which is called as a total. So obviously I will have a user to enter, say enter quantity, enter quant and rate. Okay, so I am asking user to enter rate, though we need not ask user to enter the rate. So probably what we can do is we can fix the rate, or we can ask user to enter the rate. Okay, so right now we will simply say enter quantity. Okay, and then I will say okay, each chocolate is say rupees 25. Okay, I can simply put it. Okay, each chocolate is say 25 rupees if you buy it as retail one. Okay, and we will have here scanf, and then we will do here percentage d, and then ampersand quant. Okay, that means we are just getting input from the user for the quantity, and we are fixing the rate. Otherwise we can even get that input, but right now let's keep it simple. And now we will have here if quantity of chocolates is, let's say, greater than 500. That means if someone buys more than 500 chocolates, then there is a discount of say 15%. Okay, so I'll just put it discount as 15%. I can put discount as 15, or I could have made variable discount as float, and then I could have given 0.15. So that means 15 divided by 100. It doesn't matter. Okay. So now I have written the logic, like if the quantity, if someone buys chocolates more than 500, then there is a 15% discount. So here I am just putting here 15% discount. Okay, so I'm just putting 15 for that number. So what happens? That means now the discount, initially there is no discount. That means if you buy say up to 499, you don't have any discount. That means if you just buy 10 chocolates, so how much you have to pay? 25 rupees per chocolate. So 25 into 10, so you need to pay that much amount. But if you buy more than 500 chocolates, then you will get a 15% discount. So how do you handle this situation? So you basically have written this. That means the variable discount is now made 15 only when the 500 it crosses the 500. So how do you compute now total? So total is what you essentially are going to buy quantity into the rate. Okay, so whatever the rate of chocolate, which is say 25. So I'm just going to do that multiplication. So quantity into rate. So I'm multiplying this quantity into rate, and basically what I now do is I will be now adding the discount, and then to the sorry, I will be subtracting the discount. So what should I do? Minus now quantity into rate. So same thing. So I'll have to do minus quantity into rate into discounted price. So whatever the discount, and that particular thing gets divided by 100. So this particular thing. So now it is very easy. Total is quantity into rate. If there was no discount, now I want to subtract. So how much? Whatever the discount that has been offered by that particular store. How much is that? Quantity into rate into 15% discount. So that should get subtracted from the quantity into rate, and that is what I have written. So now we will basically simply put here printf. So total or the expense, like the bill amount with or without discount, because that is not an issue. So bill amount is percentage F, and then we can put the answer, which is total. So that's it, and then you have the return 0. So here you see now this particular logic of if is very intelligently used. Why? Because then it works in either of the conditions. Like if you buy quantity which is less than 500, then your discount variable doesn't become 15, so it remains 0. So because of that, you simply get 25 into that. Suppose if you buy 10, then 25 into 10, so that answer you will get printed. If you buy say more than 500, then your discount will get subtracted, and then you are going to get the amount. So let's see this in working now. So let me just run this code. So let me enter the quantity. So suppose if I buy say 10 chocolates, then obviously your amount is 25. 250 into 10, that is 250 rupees. Sorry, 25 into 10 is 250 rupees. So that is correct. Okay. Now if I once again run this code and I enter here, so I'm going to buy say a lot of chocolates, say 550 rupees, or let me just make it very simple, say 510, little more than 500. Okay, so I'll enter quantity. So you will say this is 10,387.5. So there is a discount that essentially you got. Why? Because otherwise it would have been 510 into 25. So if I just do it in calculator, 510 into, you can find it out, 510 into 25. So it would have become 12,750 rupees, Indian rupees. But actually now because of 15% discount, you are going to pay only 10,837 Indian rupees and then 50 paise. That's the important point. So here we have used this if statement very intelligently, so that discount is made to 15. If you want to change this value, you can always make it 20, or if you want to make it 10, then you can make it 10, and things like that. So that's the way typically you will be using if statement. So we have seen the working of if statement in a very simple way, when you simply take in marks and then you either say pass or fail or success or failure. And then here we little made it, this particular thing made it a little complex, and we used it in a very intelligent way where we are going to compute the market bill amount. So that is the supermarket bill amount. So bill amount we computed as per the discount that gets offered. I hope you understood this video and you like this programs that are provided here. Thank you.